What up, y'alls? It's the Sierra Dweller himself. Back at it. There's been a particular train of thought on my mind today as I've been out here and just been really still and quiet. And it goes back to something I read in this book the other day, in this meditation book. And it talked about how it was on this idea of, how things happen in our lives and how our perception essentially paints how we see those events. This isn't a very unfamiliar idea. Most of us are familiar with this. I think there's a lot of mentioned in Stoicism and stuff. I think it was Epictetus who said something like, something along the lines of you can't control events, but you can control the way you react to them or perceive them, or something like that. I think I could be way off with that. Something like that, I think. But anyway, I feel like what I read took it a step further, and it was really, getting to the pinpoint of that idea. And it said, we hear sounds, like someone saying something, voicing their opinion of us. Maybe it's negative, maybe it's not, maybe it's positive, and we have a sort of reaction to that based on how we perceive that. Same thing with you could even tie it into actions, the way a person just goes about doing whatever it is they're doing, and the way that you perceive that is created by yourself. That was weird. And basically, this isn't a radical idea. It's really simple to think about, which is kind of weird. It's so simple, the idea, but it does feel really kind of whoa, this feels really profound to ponder. The idea that if someone says something, voices their opinion, they voice it in language, and language itself is precarious in that it's very limiting, and language can only get you so far. It's a great tool, but it's extremely limiting. But then we could even look at that a little further. What is sound? Sound is just a sound wave, and then once that sound wave hits our ear canal, and then it vibrates, and then it sends the message to our brain, and our brain gets to interpret whatever that sound wave was trying to the signal that it was trying to transmit. And so that's a really, I feel interesting way of looking at situations where you're trying to not worry so much about the opinions of others or what others are thinking about you, or stuff around ideas like that. Because if you think about it, if someone looks at you in a way that you feel they don't care about you or what you have to say, or if someone expresses themselves verbally in a way where you think that they just don't care, or they sort of have a negative outlook on you, and that has a negative effect on your life, all that is just either motion or movement, or it's just sound waves, and you're interpreting them to be a particular way. I'm not saying that we should lie to ourselves and be delusional and just kind of be so aloof and so dissociated that we just call it sound waves and like we don't even like acknowledge someone mistreating us or whatever the case may be. I think it's just a really interesting idea to play with. Like, it's just sound waves. It's just movement. It's just our brain interpreting it. That's all it is. That's all it is. The interpretation is where things get weird, because our brain interprets it based off of our culture, based off of our past behavior, based off of our our DNA, our ancestral DNA, the ways our ancestors behaved and whatnot. So it goes back a lot. I don't know, I was just sitting by the creek and I was just like, I can't remember what it was exactly. Maybe I was meditating. I think I was meditating and there were a lot of people around me and I was very self-conscious of that. And then I kind of just like looked at that and said, what is this? And it was like, there's people around me. Okay. I'm setting my attention on this idea that there's people around me and now I'm self-conscious about that. But really, like, that's just where my attention is at the moment. And if I put it on something else, then all of a sudden I'm not self-conscious or worrying about that. I think this ties into that idea because we just get to choose how we look at situations. I remember I had this thought one time. This was like a couple years ago, and it felt like such a profound thought that just popped into my head. And it was basically, this was basically the thought. What happens when I'm not thinking about being self-conscious? Like, what happens when I'm not thinking about people thinking about me? Like with social anxiety. It was like, whoa, if my attention isn't centered on being self-conscious, then I'm not being self-conscious. And that was like a huge thing that I kind of I don't know, that thought just kind of popped in my head. I was like, whoa, what is this, bro? And it was so powerful. It was like, whoa. I'm trying to figure out how to tie these two in, because one is on like where you send your attention and one is on the interpretation of information received by our senses. I don't know how I was going to do that. I don't know if I was going to do that or if I just went on a tangent with that part. But I think it's really helpful and beneficial to just understand the fine structure of the inner workings of our mind at the most fundamental level. Even though it sounds weird and it can be like, bro, like, what do you mean sound waves? And like, you're interpreting this. Like, when you really play with that idea and you really play with, nothing is actually what it appears to be. It's only what you perceive it to be as. There's such a great power in that. It's so liberating, so freeing. That's why in like Eastern traditions, they call it seeing more clearly, because when you can understand the way that your mind works, you understand so much more about life. Some people even go as far to say, you understand your mind, you understand the universe. So, just a couple interesting ideas. I wish I could have tied in those two ideas better. But anyway, I love the smell of pine trees. It's so good. So good. First time camping today too. Solo camping. My first time. I'm scared, but so excited too, because it's just so lovely out here. And I've been wanting to do this for a while. So we're doing it. We're doing it. But that's all. Goodbye, folks.